Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. What is your best tech support story? I work in a place that has a few thousand machines, and due to that volume, there are 3 different IT groups to handle all of it. Specifically, I work in the smallest of the 3 groups, which also has the least bureaucracy/red tape. Staff members often get confused about whom to call/email when a problem occurs with their machine or public machines. One particular department outside of my support group's jurisdiction has 30% of their computers down for a few months. Due to budget cuts, the largest of the IT groups got downsized and control of their computers were split between the smaller groups. This means many emails are now forwarded to the group I work with. On day 1, a staff member sends in an angry tone reminder email that some 30% of the computers are still down in her section. Because of the lack of red tape, I went over to fix the broken computers without having to inform several superiors. Within half an hour, all but 2 computers were fixed. The staff members that work in the area that has the mass amounts of out-of-order computers gave me a jaw-drop face each time I handed back one of the out-of-order signs that have been sitting on the computers for months. I felt like, F yeah! I have some tech support stories that aren't about how stupid the people with tech support problems are. Some are more about the people I've worked for in the past. I used to manage a small computer store. The owner had hired me to do this because I was a PC tech who had managed a store before, a bookstore, and could handle orders and answer phones and do other stuff. The reason most small businesses don't prosper usually becomes evident while working for a small business. It's usually the wackiness of the owner. We were in an affluent community. A lot of our customers were rich. I used to waste time trying to come up with affordable systems to give people more bang for their bucks, but our customers didn't need that. They just wanted the best we could offer them. A lot of the time, someone would just come in and say, "This computer looks good, I'll buy this one," and it would be our display model, which I was eager to sell. The owner didn't like that. "If you sell it, you're just going to have to build another one." And? If we keep it on display, it's going down in value minute by minute as new technology makes it more and more obsolete. This was the kind of problems I had trying to explain logic to the owner. I ordered a bunch of parts to sell customers and put them on our otherwise empty display shelves, and the owner got upset and said, "I just don't want it to end up looking like Best Buy in here." I couldn't fathom why he didn't want his store to look like a successful electronics giant. Then he decided that despite my extensive experience as a tech, I was the kind of guy he needed to deal with customers because I was good with customers. He wanted me to answer the phones and talk to random people who came in, and he would handle more of the tech support duties. Since most of our business was in fixing computers, not selling them, for obvious reasons, the backlog of systems needed to be worked on started to stack up, and up, and up, and up. We ended up buying more tables just to put them all on. I started putting tags on the computers with all the information about them on the tag. This was how we could keep track of who the machine belonged to and what we were being paid to repair or upgrade. I implemented this back in 1997, years before I worked at Geek Squad and saw a similar system using paperwork and stickers. Unfortunately, one of the first things the owner would often do when working on a system was pull off the tag and leave it laying on a table. We ended up not knowing which computers had what problems or belonged to whom a lot of the time. I had to leave notes on the tag saying, "Do not remove this tag, important." The owner insisted he could remember all of this stuff without any need for tags, and that just wasn't true at all. It was pathetic. One day, a guy came in wanting his CD-ROM drive replaced, a very simple, quick operation. He asked if he could get it done fast. The owner said sure, he would do it himself. I told him there were a lot of computers, about 30, ahead of his, and we were badly behind. He assured me he would take care of it himself. The guy left his computer, and a few seconds after that, the owner left for the day, as he often did, and never touched the machine at all. The next day, the guy came back to see that his computer did not have a new CD-ROM drive in it, and I sympathized with him. He started shouting, "This is BS! You heard him! He said he would do it!" All I could say was, "I know," while I continued working on a machine I was already immersed in, despite having to answer the phones and handle walk-in customers alone. I asked the owner to hire my smart and pretty girlfriend to answer the phones and deal with customers while I did the tech work. We tried this for a day, and then he decided it wasn't a good idea. I got another friend to come in and do the same job. He didn't like that idea either. I got another friend who was a tech to come in and help with the tech work. The owner didn't go for it. What did he do to fix this problem? He hired the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch was a very overweight young gay man with hair and beard down to his knees and a voice so effeminate that it wouldn't be out of place for him to exclaim, "Heavens to Murgatroyd!" The owner wanted the Sasquatch to stay in the back room and do the tech work while I handled the clients in the visible area. The problem? The guy was an effing idiot. One day, a guy who was visiting our fair city from out of town came in needing a fast modem install. We took the computer and told the Sasquatch it needed a new modem, handed the modem to him with the PC, and it was first priority, had to be done, and drivers loaded in 2 hours. The guy came back in 2 hours as expected, so we asked the Sasquatch to bring the PC out. He brought it out, and the guy started to write a check, then noticed, there's no modem in there. On another occasion, one of the Sasquatch's friends came into the store, so he wanted to show him a new motherboard he thought was cool. He opened up the brand new box off the display shelf, pulled it out of the protective anti-static sleeve, then held it up on his hand like it was a serving tray. He wasn't wearing an anti-static strap or anything. When I confronted him about it, he said that if the owner didn't want things to get damaged by static shocks, he should supply us with wrist straps, rather than expecting his techs not to be idiots who don't know how to handle electronic components. Needless to say, that board ended up dead. The owner's brilliant plan of using the Sasquatch as dungeon labor didn't work either. If he overheard a conversation in the front that interested him, he would frolic in to join the discussion and scare off the customers. The worst part was that after the owner had refused to hire any of the people I brought in, he wouldn't let me fire the Sasquatch. I told him it was either him or me, and after a while of trying to manage the creature, it actually made me physically ill, so I quit. Later on, I came in to see if the owner had my tax forms, and the Sasquatch was the only person working there, and he seemed to think everything was going fine there without me. The store shut down a few months later, and the owner ended up working for Dell. The owner hadn't been withholding anything for taxes, but luckily I was keeping track of my hours in a spreadsheet, so I turned in the correct figures to the IRS. Sure, there were occasionally wacky customers, but nothing compared to the illogic of the owner or the strange uselessness of the Sasquatch. I did a lot of chat and email support, so sometimes I would have to interpret typos in the questions. One time, someone said they couldn't use the software because they couldn't click on anything, and then suddenly, all the little men came down and started acting crazy. I realized a bit later that he must have meant menu and not men. When a new version of our software came out, the CD said to install the new software over top of the existing software, basically so no one would uninstall and lose settings, so someone called saying that the install wouldn't work. We go through basic checks to see if the CD is bad, but what was odd was the title of the CD in my computer was that of the previous version of SW. So I had him pull out the CD to read the exact date and build number on it, and he asks, "Which one?" Huh? Turns out he was trying to install the new CD physically over top of the old CD by placing both in the drive together, one on top of the other. When a problem came up, it wasn't too uncommon for us to remove and reinstall the software, so during the steps, this lady kept calling it a deinstall. While not technically the correct term, I knew what she meant and didn't call attention to it. So when we did the install, she called that the undeinstall. Again, not the correct term, but I thought the call was almost over, so I didn't say anything about it. The last question she asked was, so if I ever have to uninstall it again, I just follow the same steps? I simply said, yes, and thank you for calling. Have a nice day. Also, one word. Gigabytes. Oh right, one more word. Kegabytes. One more thought. It seems that most people, at least the ones I took calls from, aren't familiar with the word ampersand, so I learned to call it the and sign, which then seemed to confuse people almost as much, so I would then say press Shift and 7. Then I would hear click click. No, both at the same time. You do know how Shift works, right? Are you from the past? Roy. Note, if you look down at the 7 key when you read this, you just lost the game. Sorry. I had a call one time where someone was having a problem downloading via a dial-up connection, and he proceeds to do his impression of how the modem sounded before he had the problem, and then also an impression of how the modem sounded since the problem started. Just to be clear, the man was doing modem noises himself, and he totally expected me to know what the two different sounds were supposed to be indicating the problem was. Did chat support through our software, meaning the button to initiate chat session was in software, so whenever I got a "my program doesn't work," I generally assumed that it was on another computer where the software didn't work, and one guy swore up and down that it was on the same computer he was using that the software wasn't running at all. I asked him how he was chatting with me if the program didn't run. He responded by saying something like, no, it won't even open. In fact, sometimes I have to close it just to get it to open, and now it doesn't work at all. I can only assume he meant some specific part of the software, but to this day, I haven't any idea what the actual problem was. Got an email one time where someone only asked, how much is the full install? Seeing a lot of tech notes on his account marked miscellaneous, and not wanting to get into a whole lot of back and forth, I replied that the software was free, the monthly subscription was X amount of dollars, the HD space required was X, and sent whole install specs, and said that if this didn't answer his question, to clarify the question by adding how much of what he was referring to. Looking at his account, it appeared that he already had the software, and it must have been installed since he was an active customer, and also that he had been emailing in twice weekly for a few weeks asking this vague question and telling the email person they were stupid for not understanding his question. He responded to my email by telling me I wasn't answering his question and for me to reread the original email, and if I didn't know the answer, I should just ask somebody who does. I politely responded that he needed to be more clear in his question to expect an answer, and that perhaps calling in on the phone would be a faster way to resolve his question. Later that day, I was on phones and he called in and got me, so I played dumb and tried to keep asking him leading questions. He mostly wanted to complain how stupid we all were in tech support. So, to run the software, the default is to have to keep the CD in drive while the software is running, but he wanted to copy the CD data over to his HD and didn't know how to do that. Once his question was clear, it took 5 seconds to tell him what to click in the software to have it to automatically do that for him. Once it started, he still wanted to be about what morons the guys on email support were and that maybe I should go do their job for them. Guys, thank you for all of the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.